Hello and welcome to the latest from Hearts Standard. My name is Joel Sked and I am not sure. So I lost away because I was reading notes and then reading comments, and it was meant to be Craig and I, but Craig has run into some very difficult technical issues, and I couldn't hear him come through. So I have decided to just go through this solo. Not as like there's a lot of stuff to discuss, but we'll get stuck into it. I was hoping today would be a relatively straightforward one. It's not turned into that, so there's plenty to discuss, from players' departures being confirmed, possible new contracts, and a game tomorrow. For those on YouTube, I'll bring in comments after each section I discuss, just because it's easier to see them. It's easier for me to speak and then jump in between. So let me know how you're feeling about the different topics that I am going to discuss, whether it's Derek McInnes, whether it's Grant and Barry Mackay leaving, whether it's potential extensions for Craig Gordon and Lauren Shankland, and obviously the game tomorrow. So fire any questions or comments you have in, and then I'll try and get to as many as I can between each section. Now, this was going to be me presenting and asking Craig questions, so now it's going to be me presenting and asking myself self questions. And thankfully, there is this S1 Jobs advert here, which is, if I get it right, it will hide my forehead and my hairline, which is absolutely perfect. But until we move on, I will say Heart Standard is brought to you by S1 Jobs. If it's time to hand in your transfer request, then head over to s1jobs.com and upload your CV today. With thousands of jobs across Edinburgh and the surrounding area, you'll find the one at S1 Jobs. Start your search today. So yeah, already we know this is going to be rough and ready. Because I am just going to be stumbling my way through this, but I'll try and keep it as cohesive and streamlined as possible. Now, Derek McInnes is closing in on becoming the new head coach. What has happened today is that McInnes spoke to the press, confirmed that there's now an agreement between Hearts and Kilmarnock. Derek McInnes had a six-figure compensation release clause, six-figure release clause in his contract, which would allow Kilmarnock to get that compensation, and he will likely become the new Hearts head coach, providing everything goes smoothly next week, or the unveiling will be next week, as Stephen McGowan reported for Hearts Standard today in the Herald, is that Anne Budge is currently away, and she wants to meet Derek McInnes, and then once all the board have met with him, it'll be kind of rubber stamped, and he will be unveiled next week. But as he said in his press conference today, he wants to manage Kilmarnock for the next 2 games. Now, tackling the Budge stuff first, because I've been looking at social media, and there's been a lot of discussion. Personally, I like to think I don't get annoyed by very much. This doesn't really bother me. I mean, McInnes is wanting to finish his last 2 games. It's last 2 games as Kilmarnock manager, and then unveiled next week. So when it does get approved or rubber stamped, I don't think is a massive deal in terms of the next few days. What it does, I think what's not great again are the optics, just because of how divisive the certain members of the board are, including Anne Budge. But it's a lot of strong opinions either side. But moving on to just talk about Derek McInnes, I still be surprised if he's in the dugout on Sunday. I just think it'd be an awkward situation. I think Kilmarnock fans might be a backlash from Kilmarnock fans, and then he's playing against his potential future employers. That'll be an awkward one. We'll see how that plays out. But in terms of Derek McInnes, I'll bring in some comments and questions in the next couple of minutes, but I don't need to go over old ground, because I've spoken about McInnes enough and why I think he's the right man for the job. Personally, I think most putting very much my fan hat on, taking my professional hat off, which I do often, is it's probably the most excited I've been about Hearts managerial appointment since Csaba Laszlo. I think going back to Laszlo was think everyone was looking forward to that just because of what had happened the 2 previous seasons. And it felt like Hearts had a bit of direction again with a manager. I just think McInnes coming in, that there'll be he'll bring like a stature. Spoken to a couple of players who played with him for articles that will come out once he's been appointed, and it's given me a lot more belief that he is the right man for the job. Talked about how he built a really strong environment, brought in the right people, kind of transformed Aberdeen, that made it a really good place for players to come in and train, and also just his work with individuals and the team. And it seemed like players will enjoy playing under him. Benny Benengame was asked today in the press conference about McInnes, and he said that he'd asked Lonnie Shanklin, Barry Mackay about him, and they were both very positive about him. So he's been talked about in the dressing room already. And I'll bring in there's loads of questions and comments as well. So this is where it gets difficult. So I need to keep talking while I read them through. So Thomas says, all right, lads, having previously said McInnes would be underwhelming appointment, all things considered, it's probably a sensible decision by the board for once, having really thought about it. The summer is going to be pretty exciting if the Bloom deal goes through and a proven Scottish manager. Welcome, Derek. Man, there's so many. Right, let's see what else. That one, I'll star them as I go. I should have starred them as before I came on. Bebop Boop says, I can't remember a more exciting time since Vlad came over. Cal 6, I'm very much warming to Dean McInnes to becoming our new manager. We desperately need some managerial stability. I think we as fans need to show patience as McInnes have proved he's more than capable. I feel the same as when Nielsen rejoined for the second championship season. Fraser Sked says, bit uninspired, but recognise this is probably the best option for us right now. Actual management experience key for us. So sorry for me just making noises as I go. This wasn't how it was meant to. Wasn't how it was meant to be. Gorgie Boys podcast says, if McInnes comes in next week, I assume players will be going on holiday soon, so we want to sit down with them all before they go to see who he wants to keep and who he doesn't. Sure, he'll have a pretty good idea coming into the job. He'll be very familiar with a lot of these players. I think it's interesting. He's spoken about this before, but he wanted to sign, or he was interested in Penrice, Spittle and Dander before they came to Hearts. He's worked with Shanklin before. There's guys that you'll know very well, and again, he's coming into an environment where he's going to have a bigger budget, what he'll be really looking forward to working with. Can you say if there's a contract on the table? Is it still being negotiated? I'm not sure if this is with regarding McInnes or the players, but believe that there is. I believe like agreements are in place. It's just ready to be rubber stamped when required. I'll star that one. I really should be starring them. And Gordy Boys podcast, can we assume McInnes is happy to work with Graham Jones and with the Jamestown? McInnes usually likes full control at the club, but this will be very different for him. Yes, I've said this a few times. I think it's overblown regarding the full control. I think like all managers, Derek McInnes would like a final say in the players he has to work with. I think that's important for a head coach. And I think any manager coming in would be excited to work with Jamestown. Not only is he getting the bigger budget I mentioned, but the widening, there's be a more wide-ranging network to look at. Yes, McInnes has focused a lot of his recruitment around Britain, but that's I think he's done that because he probably easier to kind of acclimatise and perhaps more kind of easier to hit the ground running. But I think that's something that you'll look at as the European market and the value that Hearts can get from there. Oh yeah, there we go. Bebop. Is there a contract for Derek to sign, or is it still being drawn up? I think that's it's a contract there. I think all. If it's not all agreed, then it could be agreed tonight. He's meeting the board, most of the board tonight, so it's progressing. I mean, I think it's at the very end of this very end of the process. And I'm just about to read something out there that I'm really glad I didn't. So the McInnes will be progressing. I do think I personally think it's sensible that he comes in after the Kilmarnock game, because he I felt that once Hearts had beaten Ross County, it should be announced that Fox was interim until the end of the season. I thought that just made sense. It took a lot of the pressure off. It took a lot of the constant need for updates around the managerial situation, and then it just provides a bit more clarification and going forward. So I think it does make sense that McInnes is unveiled next week, where with like the season in the past, and he has time to assess the squad. Well, he goes into having the whole summer knowing what he wants to do and having time to assess the squad. I will move on to Barry Mackay and George Grant. Both have been confirmed as leaving the club at the end of their contracts. They expire in the summer. I don't want to dwell on this, well, specifically Barry Mackay, too long, just because I'll probably do a longer video on him later on this in the next couple of weeks, just because I think he's really interested in Hearts' career and want to explore that a bit more, just because that first season, go back to that first season and just thinking how good he was, just how exciting he was. I still remember standing at games and just sounds weird saying this out loud, but just like making noises, but like more just because he made passes that like no one else in the ground saw, and he had the vision to do it, had the technique to do it. The second season, I thought it was okay, but maybe didn't hit the heights or hit the numbers he did in the first season. Then last season was done with injury, and then this season he had been given the number 10 shirt, started the first 2 games of the season, but then second game of the season was taken off at half-time at Dundee, and then just never really recovered from that. He was played as a number 10. I don't think he is a number 10. I think he's best playing out off the left. Never really recovered from that. And as time went on during his spell with Hearts, there was just this perception that he was, perception grew within the sport that he was, what's the best way to phrase that, is he didn't overly care for the defensive side of the game, and you could hear it from the crowd. There's a lot of frustration, but in terms of on the ball, technically gifted, so good. And I think it's that frustration that's added to the disappointment, or the frustration around Mackay, is that everyone knows how good a footballer he is, but just wasn't able to put it all together and be that consistent threat. As for George Grant, he is. It just feels like he's been nearly man at Hearts. I think the kind of Zurich game set the tone. Is that he's shown flashes, shown glimpses of a really talented football player. I think if you look at him, he just looks like a football player, and he's again technically very, very good. The way he moves, he just looks like a football player. But big moments have kind of let him down, where it's getting sent off against Zurich when Hearts looked in control and looked like there was a really good chance to win that tie at Tynecastle. There were a couple more sendings offs of this season. You look at the sending off in at Aberdeen when Hearts could have won their first league game, and then again could have won it at Pittodrie, and had that redemption moment in the second game at Pittodrie, but missed the penalty. And I do think this season's probably been his best season. He's played a lot. He's played. Fox has kept him in the team. Played a lot under Critchley. Played a lot under Naismith. Never really decided on his best position. He's played so many different positions, and he's never had that consistency in terms of in possession. But when he's got into position, he's never really shown that consistency to really take his career at Hearts to the next level. So again, he could be one that's what could have been. Overall, I think it was the right decision to move on from the player from the free up some decent wages, and again, it allows the squad to turn over and improve in the summer. Two players who could remain are Lauren Shanklin and Craig Gordon. Again, we'll probably tackle this. Just there's so much to talk about, and especially if it just be me, I'm trying to look at comments as well. But we'll tackle this and look at it in more depth. But from what I understand, both have been offered deals, or certainly been in talks with the club about extending their stay. And again, that's something that will be discussed further and rubber stamped. Or Derek McInnes will obviously have the next manager will have a big say on that, because you don't want to bring in players or put players on new contracts that the manager, head coach doesn't want to work with, essentially. And I'm sure those kind of conversations through intermediaries or whatever will allow McInnes to have that say. But for me, Lauren Shanklin's a no-brainer. I just don't think you should be looking to for someone who scored 20 plus goals in 2 consecutive seasons. I don't think he should be wanting to allow him to leave that easy. I know this season has been difficult. There's a number of factors for that. Shanklin himself has not been his best season, but I just think that we've waited 30 odd years for a goal scorer like him to come along from John Robertson, and finally got one. Probably want to keep him, but also put your trust in what he's done over his spell at Hearts, rather than just focusing on this season. Wouldn't want to just use this season, just think, right, he's not done it for us this season, discard him. Try and show that a little bit. As football fans, you want loyalty from players when looking to move on, and then there's that flip side. I know fans will turn around and go, he would, if there was offers there for him, that he would move on. Whether they are, I just think you'd want to keep the best players, and Shankland is one of the best players. And I know, having spoken to Derek McInnes I think it was last year, wrote a big read on Lauren Shanklin's journey to Hearts, and so spoke to McInnes about his time at Aberdeen, and he said that moving on from Aberdeen was a really important moment for Shanklin in his career. But also, speaking to him, he was like how delighted he was with what Shanklin has gone on to do, and he's spoken highly of him ever since. So I do think Shanklin will be someone that McInnes wants to work with. Gordon's a more interesting one, I think, a kind of year-by-year basis. I've got I think that's been one that's probably had a bit more discussion. No issues with for the year. Still look at Gordon as being the guy you want when you need a match or a game-saving save, if that makes sense. But I do think that I'm not sure whether he can be number one. If he performs, of course, but I think it shouldn't be as cut and dry. I think there should be real competition, and there should be no guarantees that he's going to be number one, which I'm sure there won't be. He still has kind of Scotland to play for, and he'll be kind of gunning for that. The easy answer is just you want the player between the sticks who is most consistent, who's most reliable, and who's performing the best. And if Gordon stays and that pushes on Clark and he backs up Clark, then we still have two very capable goalkeepers at the club. And finally, I will go back and look at the comments. Just there's so many, and it means I can don't have to start making noises and clicking through them. But I'll do that very, very shortly. Finally, the St Johnstone tomorrow. Gordon, Liam Fox spoke about today. Gordon is out. I would expect Ryan Fulton to continue to play between the sticks. Kenneth Vargas is out with a knee issue. Neither Gordon or Vargas are anything serious, but they will be out tomorrow, and they could miss Sunday's game at Rugby Park against Kilmarnock. There's really not much to say about the game tomorrow. It's a much more important game for St Johnstone than it is for Hearts, but Hearts want to finish on a high final game at Tynecastle Park. I think Liam Fox especially will want to continue his good form and have, just on a personal level, have a really good run of results. And I do think Liam Fox deserves a lot of credit. I wrote about it. She meant to write it, put it out last night, but there was just loads of other stuff. So I put out this morning and looked at the changes that Fox has made since coming in his second interim spell, but also looking at his interim spells across his two interim spells across the season. And I thought he's done what Hearts have required at the right time. He's played a style that I think is much more fan friendly. He's talked about it, about being Hearts, and I've kind of spoken to him about this before, is that of his view of how Hearts should play as a fan himself, and how he wants Hearts to play and how he sees it. And I think we've seen that, especially the last two games. And you go back to his first spell, definitely saw it out like Pittodrie, and even the draw against Ross County created more than enough chances to win. I think probably the poorest performance was the first win of the season against Dinamo Minsk, but out of the five so far, it's been the poorest. But in all of them, there's been an intent to play with wide men, to get play forward, to be a bit more direct, to be a bit more up tempo. And he's just, big thing about him is he's really simplified matters. Speaking to people at the club, he's a really popular figure at the club. He's really popular with the players. I think they respond really well to him. So yeah, it's I think he deserves a lot of credit for his two interim spells this season, and be interesting to see what happens with him in within the new management team. I wouldn't be surprised to see him be part of Derek McInnes's coaching staff, and I think they're probably a good move. Again, just with his how he's viewed within the squad, how he's viewed as a coach. I mean, the fact he's coached at Hearts twice. He's been taken to Dundee United. He's been taken to Aberdeen. David Gray wanted to take him to Hibs, so he's got a really good reputation within football. He wants to get into management again at some point, but yeah, I think Hearts got a really good coach there who understands and knows the club, and I would hope and expect him to continue, but we'll see what that brings. As for the game, I've not even had time to think about the starting 11 for tomorrow. All I would say is, just trying to think who would, probably a chance for Jan Danda to play. I wonder if he'll come in on the left and Alan Forrest will move to the right. Jan Danda came off the bench on Saturday and was really lively. We've not really seen him in the number 10 position. There's also the possibility of Spittle's back, for Spittle to come in on the left, and maybe Danda to play in behind Shankland. Again, Grant's had that position. But I can't foresee too many changes. It's interesting. Fox was talking about, also mentioned that a couple of youngsters were training with the first team today. I don't expect to see them in the first team over the next couple of games, but just to show, just to bring in two talented players in Keir McMeekin, 15-year-old, very highly rated forward who is wanted by many clubs down south, and Alfie Osborne as well, who has been playing in the B team. Can play centre back or defensive mid. I think Hearts team was defensive mid. Really strong presence, really good athlete, and so they've been training with the first team. But I think it might just be because the B team's season's come to the end, and they want to bring in the guys who are really highly thought of and get them involved in that environment. Again, as for the game, I think everyone would just want to go and watch a positive performance, team play on the front foot. As for the lap of honour at the end, I'm not sure it'll be the most well-attended lap of honour that Tynecastle Park has seen, but we'll see what tomorrow brings. Again, I really need to apologise for the rambling that's gone on, just because I didn't expect it to just be a one-man show, but technical issues have gone that way, and trying to keep up with all your comments is very difficult because there's a lot of them. So I'll just go and bring in some random. CG1505 asks, did something happen with Drysdale? I don't think he's made the Partick squad once since his loan. Yeah, he got an injury early on in his spell at Partick Thistle, and can't remember who they brought in, but they brought in someone. Real shame. Really talented players, really talented player. Again, someone who was really high thought of. You go back to last summer, he started one of the pre-season friendlies and got injured after 3 or 4 minutes, and that's the thing that's been holding him back, is just injury. So really talented player, really good athlete, and he's someone where you watching him in the B team or when he was younger age group, you look at him and he just looks just looks like an athlete and looks like he could handle that step up. Unfortunately, just unfortunately his injury situation just held him back. Adam says this is the second time Fox has delivered as interim and also delivered as B team boss. It would be very harsh for him not to be involved in the coaching capacity of McInnes or back with the B team. So with the B, I think he would want to be part of the coaching staff. He did a really good job with the B team. Again, they were really good to watch, and that's been continued with Angus Beef, who's now the B team head coach and who's working closely with Shelley Kerr. Comments, where we go. Let's see, Fraser Sked, both Mackay and Fraser Sked is not a relative. I'm not just picking his comments, but both Mackay and Grant over the piece have been fine, but nothing more for me. A few strikes, but more garbles. Darren Ross asks, who else is out of contract apart from Gordon and Shanklin that the club are still deciding on? I think, off the top of my head, I think those are the only 4 first-team players who are out of contract at the end of the season. I'm just bringing up a list just now. Yeah, so Craig Gordon, George Grant, Jamie McDonald, but he's with the B team, Barry Mackay, Lauren Shankland, Harry Stone as well. He's been on loan, so trying to find out more information about them. Just saying, Pete Robbins asks, Joe, can you comment on why the articles mentioned and Budge being on holiday was causing a delay? Just because as chairwoman, I think you want to have that one-to-one with Derek McInnes, or to speak to Derek McInnes, and just have, again, they're going to have that relationship going forward as a chairperson and a manager. So I think should probably rather do that than over the phone. Again, it means that the deal's not done, but with McInnes wanting to be in the dugout for the next couple of games, it's not as big an issue as it could have been. Darren Ross asked Danny Armstrong to Hearts a dead cert now. I wouldn't say a dead cert, but I wonder if it is something that they will look to reignite. There was interest in January. I think Derek McInnes might be will obviously have a say in that. There's certainly been interest in Armstrong from around Europe, so we'll see what the summer brings. Let's see. Craig Heatley asked, is that S1 logo delivery position to cover the receipt? Yes, it most certainly is, and I'll be doing this from now onwards. Adam says, Barry Mackay was a wizard when he first appeared, but failed to show up in big games. His limitations physically and no one to back him up, in and out of form, attributed to his downfall. Wizard is a good way to describe him. Let's see. David Taylor asked, do you think there will be other players considered being allowed to leave, as there are a host of players that are going into their last year? Do you think Dale will want to keep them? I think there will need to be a semblance of squad overhaul. So it's harder to see now. Won't get an idea until chatting to Derek McInnes in terms of what he wants to do and what he wants to see from players. But I do think there'll be just naturally there'll be some players in the squad that he really likes, some players that he maybe doesn't see as having a future. So there'll definitely be some who'll be considered allowed to move on. Let's see. So I'm just trying to read all the comments, and it's a lot of comments. So I just don't want to miss out any. Really good. Michael Ovens. So that's one. Do you think Shanks and CG will sign new deals? I think CG will. Shanks ? I think in terms of Shankland, I think Derek McInnes' presence is a good thing for Hearts and keeping Shanklin. I think it's down to two factors: is what interest comes in the summer. I'm not aware of any. That's not to say there isn't any, because he might get a brilliant offer from somewhere else. But I think staying at Hearts is probably growing to be more and more appealing. I think he gets on really well with Derek McInnes. I think McInnes will set up in a way that will get the best out of Shankland, i.e. playing him through the middle, potentially with a partner, with wingers that get the ball in the box. So I think it might just come down to, will there be will there be interest from elsewhere? And again, a lot of things. Money, if they can agree on a deal, rightfully so. Shankland will probably want a deal which recognises the fact that he scored 68 goals across the last 3 seasons. I've answered that. Let's see if there's any more before we finish up. Right, there we go. I'll finish up there. There's too many comments to read, and I feel like I'm a rambling mess at the best of times, but even more so today. So I apologise for the bit more scattergun approach. Again, that was technical issues which couldn't be helped. Craig was losing his mind trying to fix it, so that couldn't be helped. We'll be back probably after the game tomorrow, speaking about the St Johnstone game, and then see what the rest of the week brings. I will be definitely going to be at the Foundation of Hearts consultation on Thursday night, so we'll have a reaction to that on the site hopefully at night, and then on Friday in video form, and then as things get closer with Derek McInnes, and Craig and I will both be able to speak about it, and hopefully speak about it in more cohesive terms. But until tomorrow, till Thursday, till Friday, I will leave it there. Thank you very much, everyone, for continuing to watch as I struggled my way through that, and continue to comment and input. It's really appreciated, and apologies I didn't get to all of them. There's just so many comments, and a lot of good points as well. But I appreciate that, and I appreciate that people will be having conversations in the comments. Hope everyone has a lovely Tuesday night. I am away for a lie down, and I'll see you again at some point.